On the phone, we have a comedy legend, a gentleman I enjoyed watching on Coach back in the 90s. He got started in the early 60s on a show that his brother ran, but till this day, I still say he's the funnier Van Dyke, Jerry Van Dyke. How you doing, Jerry?
Good, good. Good. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I am the funnier Van Dyke.
Now, does Dick agree with that?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He's more of a. However, on the Van Dyke show, he's a great comedy timing. He's great scripted. Of course, I always argued he had the best writer in the television business with Carl Reiner. You know, those guys, they never did a bad show, and Dick was great. But since then, he had done a lot of comedy, also dancing, which I was very surprised. I didn't think he could dance.
I see you were started your comedy career in high school at Danville High School. Does that mean you were the class clown?
Oh, definitely. The school clown. I was to the extreme. You know, most comics come from the class clown, but I was extreme. I was mischievous. I got thrown out a lot before my practical jokes, but I was always. It took me 6 years to get through high school. I'm not too bright either.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think most comedians have to be pretty smart, whether they want to admit it or not.
That hasn't been my experience. Today, yeah. Today, you're right. But my era, we were all, most of them didn't finish high school. But now, you really are, comics are pretty bright. But not in my era. You know, most of, you know, the Buddy Hackett's, Alan King's, you know, Don Rickles, you know. These guys weren't too educated.
A lot of them had some issues, too, like Jonathan Winters.
Well, he had a lot of issues, yeah, outside of, you know, not being. I think Jonathan probably was smart, but he was mentally, he couldn't. It's a problem, big problem with him.
At what point?
My era, nowadays, the guys are bright. I mean, tell you, like, a lot of the comics are very bright, and therefore they're able to come up with more material than us dumber guys. But they're into politics, and they keep up with what's going on, and material is so hard to come by, and the smarter you are, the better you can come up with it.
At what point did you know you wanted to get out of Danville, Illinois?
I never wanted to get out. I loved going up there, and you know, I went in the service, and I got out, and I actually didn't leave till I was about 25. But I didn't want to go. I wanted to be I wanted to be a comic since 8 years old. I decided at 8 years old that's what I'm going to do, and I didn't even have any interest whatsoever in doing anything else. So I concentrated on that in school. That was my problem in school, you know. I'd rather be funny than get good grades.
I had the same problem. I spent more time outside the classroom than inside.
Yes. Yeah, all the way around. I was just a happy-go-lucky guy, you know. I always was. I've never had a test or anything, but I know I have ADHD. I know I have it. Even though I've never been diagnosed with that, but I know that's my problem. See,
so who are the comedians? Who are the comedians you enjoyed when you were growing up?
all of that era, Red Skelton, Bob Hope, they were my idols. All the radio guys, Chuck Benny, of course. All of that. That was my era, radio. Listen to the radio. I wouldn't miss Sunday and Tuesday night with the comics. That was my life. Yeah, I was into sports pretty good, but comedy was it. My dad and my uncle, his brother, the two of the funniest guys I've ever seen. Off the top of their head, funny, really funny. I'm serious. Growing up, Dick was the unfunniest guy in the house.
Well, somebody had to be serious, right?
I guess so. But he was interested. He was in the school plays. And I loved. I want to be a stand-up comic, which I did become. I was one, but. All of my friends, I was into sports pretty good, and all my friends' brothers were on the football team. They were, and that's being in plays in the 40s was not the thing to do.
They talked about those guys back then.
What?
They didn't talk well about those guys back then who were in theater.
Not at all. They were sissies. And I was embarrassed that he was in plays. I'd go to high school and have to go see it. And he'd mostly dramas. And, I was embarrassed that my brother was in the plays. The thing, the football was it. To have a brother play football, that would be it.
Was it a stretch for you to play Dick Van Dyke's brother on the Dick Van Dyke Show?
Well, no, not at all. It was, to this day, it's the greatest material I've ever had written. I mean, they were just brilliant. Carl Reiner was brilliant. And they never had a bad show. That was, to this day, the best thing I've ever done.
I think the best guy in that show was Maury Amsterdam.
What about him?
I think Maury was the funniest guy in that show.
Yeah, well, Maury was a comic, one of the original Broadway open house comics. He was a real comic, a joke machine. But he was funny. It was perfect casting, that show. It's still to this day the best, to me, the best show on television ever.
What was working with Rosemarie like?
Great. We and I, we hit it off pretty good from day one, and it was fun. The big thing about the Van Dyke Show, I'd never done anything, and when I did that show, I just was a stand-up comic, working toilets, and my God, to have material given to you like that. The big problem, of course, with a comic is material. You got to go on the Tonight Show and have new stuff. And it was handed to me. It was I thought, oh my God. I remember I asked Mary Tyler Moore, do you think I could make a living doing this?
And what was the answer?
I think she was vague.
I see that they offered you the chance to play Gilligan and you turned it down. What was the reason for that?
Right.
Why did you do that? Or you didn't think that script was any good?
Did you ever see the show?
I did, but I think you would have been a better Gilligan than he was.
Well, it doesn't make any difference. As it turned out, it's the best thing I ever did by turning that down, because I would be Gilligan forever.
Which is what happened to Bob Denver.
Well, yeah. And it was a minute. They all hated each other. it was a terrible existence of doing that show. Everybody didn't get along. It's a safe. You know, it's odd. That show only lasted 3 years.
Yeah.
But everybody thinks it was on forever because of syndication. And Bob Denver didn't get anything. He made his money, this public appearances, signed an autograph.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I turned it down. The joke is I turned down Gilligan's Island and took my mother the car.
and they didn't question your sanity after that decision?
Of course, everybody did. Yes, everybody did. But people don't realize, you know, we don't really have a choice in this business. I mean, we have to take what we can get. We can't just sit back and say, I don't like that, I don't like that, I'm not going to do that. I know I have to make a living. And it was guaranteed on the air. Grant Tinker, who eventually married Mary, was a vice president at NBC. And I used to play tennis with him. And he came to me and said, listen, I want you to do this show guaranteed on the air. He said, I'll be just here to tell you it's on the air. And but you still have to do the pilot and everything. So here's a show, you know, and gimmick shows were pretty popular in those days. You know, Bewitched and all those.
Sure.
Mr. Ed, they were all hits. So, you know, it was pitched to me as the show was just a gimmick to me get in trouble and do a series. I didn't know the car would end up being the star of the show.
It was Knight Rider before Knight Rider.
Right. You know, and this particular car wasn't really that funny. So
now, one role you did pass up, though, was on the Andy Griffith Show. You could have been the role that Don Knotts had?
Well, they wrote the show for me to take Don's place. But I know it was never really offered to me. I know it was in the thoughts and stuff. But the reason is I had this firm offer to do my mother the car. And I wasn't going to sit around waiting for, and that would have been a dumb move anyway, trying to take Don Knotts' place. So just as well I didn't do it.
How did you end up getting the role of Luther on Coach?
It's a long story. I'll cut it down. I was on the road. I was pretty much through in the business. I've had all these series of bombed on. You know, I had to make my living in clubs and things, and I was getting older. So I said, I gotta start writing. I couldn't write alone. And I went working Phoenix. I'll tell you how far down I was working the Red Dog Saloon in Phoenix on New Year's Eve. And the club was exactly like it sounds it was. And a young man, 20 years old, approached me and said he was a writer and wanted me to help him. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll team up with you. I'll pay you $300 a week. Come to California. We'll write things. I have a few connections, and so I did. And he came, and we bombed miserably. It was didn't work. But I kept contact with the kid, and I kept him on salary. And I was pretty good friends with James L. Brooks, Jim Brooks,
yes,
who did Mary Tyler Moore and a lot of things, the movies. But I went to him and said, I got this kid. He put him on the taxi. And then one thing led to another. He did pilots. He did, he didn't do anything. He did the Newhart show. It didn't work out. The last one. And then I I didn't want to lose contact with him. I was working Harris, opening for Jim Neighbors, and I was doing real well. I was killing him. And my wife went to him and had him come and see me. And I'll never forget it. At breakfast, he said, I've had this idea about a coach. And that's it. I found my own producer. He was working at the Chamber of Commerce in Phoenix. So I had to find my own guy because I was pretty much washed up, kind of like now. Are you still there?
Yeah, they had a great cast with Craig T. Nelson, yourself, George Engel. I'm blanking out on the one name right now. The other assistant,
Ken Kimmons, the athletic director.
Exactly.
And Dauber.
Yeah.
What was it? Was the chemistry the key to that show's success?
Absolutely, without a doubt. We had more fun off camera than on camera. Then it transferred into the. So it was definitely the chemistry because the producer, the guy who wrote the show, wanted Burt Reynolds, and he didn't. He turned down Craig, and then they got running out of things, and they went back to Craig. It just was the chemistry that worked. And it was a live show in front of an audience. You know, me being a stand-up comic, that fitted me great.
When people meet you, do they think that you're that befuddled assistant coach, or do they understand that was just a role that you played on television?
They pretty much believe it because actually that's who I am. I mean, Luther, see, this writer that did the show lived with me for a long time, right? We were writing those things. So he took most of my character from me. You know, I was a junk food nut. I was, he described my, Shirley? The world's most negative man. That's how he described me. So he lived with me. So Luther was really me, a spinoff. I just put myself into the role. That was just me. I'm not an actor.
My favorite episode was when you met Kathy Lee and Frank Gifford, and you spilled that food on Kathy Lee.
Yes, I remember that. Yes, she wasn't happy about that either.
Was that planned or was that impromptu?
The what?
Was that planned or was that impromptu?
Oh, it was planned. It was planned, but we did a couple of takes and I made some mistakes and poured it on parts of her body I shouldn't have. But I think maybe it was on purpose.
You made the mistakes on purpose to get back at her?
I think it was on purpose, yeah. We had a lot of fun on that show. There's a lot of ad-libbing and stuff went into it, you know. We'd make a mistake and then put it in the show.
You kind of
Craig and I hit it off. Craig, you know, started in comedy. He actually started comedy, then got into drama later. I remember seeing him when they said he was doing they picked him as the coach. I remember seeing him in the movie, what was it? Poltergeist. Oh,
okay. Yeah.
And he reminded me of a Sid Caesar type guy. He did some things in there I saw that probably a lot of people didn't see. I could see the comedy. So I knew it was there, and boy, he loved doing comedy. And we hit it off so good that you know, we split each other up. We had an awful time getting to the show.
You guys
we,
reminded me kind of like Abbott and Costello, the way you guys interacted with each other.
Like who?
Abbott and Costello.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. We had the timing, you know. It took us about 2 years before we found. See, the writer that wrote it and produced it, what he wanted was my father, the coach, where she comes to college and they're divorced, and the turmoil between the father and the daughter, and he didn't want to get away from that. I was just comedy relief. I didn't have much to do the first 3 years, and then Craig and I started hitting it off, and then it went from there. We were never a major hit. We weren't in the top 10 very, very seldom, but we lasted 9 years, which is amazing.
That's a pretty good run, and you got 4 consecutive Emmy Award nominations, so you must have been doing something right, and somebody was taking notice.
Well, yeah, it just worked. I didn't think it was working, I'll tell you the truth, for a long time. Until I was nominated for my first Emmy, I didn't think I was coming off. I really didn't, because they weren't writing for me at all. But of course, it was magic. You know, I was over the hill. I was 56 years old. I was over the hill. It was over for me when that came about. I remember I told Shelley in the beginning, I said, "This is it for us, son. If this doesn't work, we're out of it." And Shelley was the same way. You know, she'd been around.
It
was a great experience.
Yeah, she was on the Donna Reed show back in the 50s, you know, as a teenager.
Right. And she had a hit recording, you know.
Right.
And she'd been around a little bit. You know, I said that the Van Dyke show was the best thing I ever did. The best thing I've ever done, I just did a couple of years ago. You know, Dick and I, my brother, we did the Sunshine Boys. And we were off of Broadway, and I was great. I had the lead, you know, and which is my character it was Luther, and we filled the house. We did fantastic, and we were offered Broadway, but of course, you know, Dick's 6 years older than I am, so we were pretty much. They even offered to cut out matinees for us. But it's really, for me, it was like written for me. But we were too much over the hill at that time. It's been, you know, Dick's 88. You know, he just married a 39-year-old woman. Did you know that?
Yeah.
It keeps him young.
He must have an optimistic.
Or else it's killing him.
But if you're going to go, you know, I could think of worse ways to go.
I guess so. Yeah, if he's still doing it, so to speak.
Now,
I question.
You also do a show that do you? You do a show that's one of my wife's favorite, The Middle, and you show up every Thanksgiving. How much fun is it working with Patricia Heaton?
I do it a couple of times a year, and you know that it looks like I'm going to be fairly regular on the, I did, it's a big hit, follows, isn't that awful? I can't think of the name of it. It's the new hit of it follows Big Bang Theory. What's the name of it? I'm the father on that show.
The Middle?
I'm the grandfather on it.
The Middle?
No, The Millers.
No. The Millers.
Yeah.
The Millers, yeah. I just did one, but they're going to have me back. And it was, really, I came off real well. I love doing it. And they're going to have me back next year. So, I mean, I'm the father on The Middle. I don't know how long I can hold out.
Listen, if Betty White's still going at 92.
Who?
Betty White, she's still going at
Yeah,
92.
she does. Yeah. I don't think I'll want to.
Well, the nice thing is the characters you play, if you ever get senile, nobody will ever know the difference, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm better now than I was when I was 30, because I'm better older.
Well, you were just ahead of your time.
But there aren't a whole lot of parts for an 82-and-a-half-year-old guy.
Well, yeah, but if anybody's going to get him, you're the guy. Right?
Hopefully. Yeah, but,
What's the competition out there?
Getting through the show is not easy for me. I broke my hip a couple of years ago, and I did when I did the Millers for the first time. I did the best acting I ever have done because I walked, and I couldn't walk at that time because I had a broken hip. So, but the guy that produces that show, he's put me on things. He did My Name Is Earl. I was on that. He did another show lasted like 5 years.
You were on Yes Dear
And
for a while.
Huh?
Yes Dear was another one you were on.
Yes, sir. That's it. He had me on I was on there quite a few times.
My kids love you.
That kept me going.
My kids love you on The Middle, though. My 3 girls. Every time.
Oh, really?
They said, we love the grandpa.
No kidding.
They do, because who can't like you? You're kind of fun and cuddly. You're kind of like a teddy bear.
Yeah, lovable Luther. And, well, of course, I don't try to do that, but in fact, I'm really not a lovable guy.
Why is that?
So I'm surprised I come off that way. Ask my wife.
I was good. You've been married long enough, though.
Well, my wife's 21 years younger, and my brother has always tried to outdo me, and he goes married one 84 years younger.
84 years younger?
No. Almost.
Well, no. Well, I'm exaggerating. He's 88. She just turned 40. Now, you can take that for what it's worth. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? Someone was looking to make a couple of bucks.
Does he have? I wonder if he has a stand-in in the bedroom.
Yeah, well, it ain't me.
Now, do you still have to audition for roles?
They want me to, but I won't do it. I've done enough that they look at, I've had all kind of film. So what they do, I'll tell you, this is what they do. They take people and make them audition no matter what, because then each person gives them a little something. I've seen many things when I auditioned for stuff, and they took some of the stuff I did and gave it to the guy who got the part. They're looking, they don't know what they're looking for in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Sometimes
they'll pick somebody that is just the opposite of what they're looking for because they like the audition. But, I don't live there now in California. And, I'm not going to fly out there to audition.
Yeah.
So how come you haven't
In
played?
fact, they just called me. They're doing a pilot. The pilot, and the guy agent called me. There's 4. Said, "Were you interested?" Sent me a script. I had 4 lines in the pilot, and they didn't pick me.
Hopefully, they paid you well.
Well, that was why I did it. They pay well. I don't think the series will have a chance if it makes it on the air. But I figured, what the hell? Just doing the pilot. But they didn't pick me.
How come you haven't played the banjo on The Middle?
I don't know. They didn't write it in.
I love when you played the banjo on Coach.
Oh, I can't play it anymore.
Oh.
I never was any good. I just had a pretty good right hand, and I could go fast. And I was terrible banjo player. But the only people that know it are banjo players, because banjo's a great fake instrument. You know, they have if I got a good band, you know, they're playing and I'm just going, it's nothing. It was a pretty good gimmick, you know, for me. I love the banjo. I wish I'd learned better, but I had a little problem learning anything.
You did okay for a guy who had problems learning. I have a question. Carl Reiner, you loved him as a writer. Now he's,
yes,
you know, an actor. What do you think of him as an actor? He's an actor nowadays. He's a comic actor.
He's always been. He started as an actor, you know, on the Sid Caesar show. You know, he was the comic.
Sure.
You know, he started writing around that time. So he always, that's what he wants to do, be an actor. And, you know, he gets the parts because, you know, who he is. And I'm not a big fan of his acting. But as a person, like he MCs shows and things, and he is funny, really funny on the stage. He ad-libs great. But I don't know why he wants to hang in there.
What else is he going to do?
He could write another. He could write another show with you as the star, and Dick is the sidekick.
Well, that's not a bad idea. We had a meeting. Dick finally said that he would do another series, and so I met with the network. And Dick went with me to sell an idea, and Dick's not a good guy for pitching shows. But the first thing he said, we were with the head of the network and all the important people at ABC. And he said, you know, why do you have so many commercials? So obviously we didn't sell nothing.
Because commercials
he
pay
said
the
that
salaries.
To the president of the network.
You're the
afterwards.
Dick, what were you thinking?
I did that, exactly that. After the meeting, I said, "What the?" So, well, he did that. Then in the pitch, I thought I would get really a show out of it, because in the middle of it, I had an idea. I said, then I said, he wasn't in it that much. I said, well, screw him. How about me? I said that, and I split everybody up. And then it didn't work. Then I checked with him. You know, he's doing Night at the Museum 3. I don't know how. He got pneumonia doing it too. But you know, he did Night at the Museum.
I saw the
then
first.
He did.
I saw the first one. I fell asleep during it.
Right. And then the second one he did, but they cut him out. He wasn't in it at all. And then he did it. He just did this one. God knows what he did. But he'll keep going.
Who is your favorite person to work with? What actor or actress?
Well, most of the time it would be, of course, Craig. But he can turn. You know, most people say he's so terrible to work with, but we hit it off. But John Wayne was great. He treated me like a king. I did a McClintock, a movie.
Yes.
And he took to me, and was that fun? Was that because he had complete control of everything, and he would call me out of nowhere and put me in a scene that I wasn't written in. We got to be good friends and everything too.
He's a legend.
I think he would be my favorite.
Did he have much of a sense of humor?
Oh yeah, pretty good. If you didn't talk politics.
Was he a Republican?
Well, I don't know what he was, but he was extreme. I think so.
And you work
I
with
don't pay any attention.
And you work with Judy Garland.
That's right. I got along great with her too. She liked me a lot, but the material was so bad on that show that or just awful. I did the warm-ups. I was on this show, and I did the warm-ups. And one night before the show, I was warming 2 hours. She didn't show up for 2 hours.
Ooh.
Now, I'm out there doing every piece of material I've ever thought of. And I'm bombing because after 2 hours, they get sick of it. Then I got to come out and do the show. And they're so sick of me by that time. She gave me I was feeling bad. She gave me a pill once to try this. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I don't know what to this day what it was.